All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another market close. It is Monday, May 20th, 3:45 p.m. Folks, we've got Bitcoin back at levels that we haven't seen since April 10th. Bitcoin did go above 70,000. Robinhood here at 2082. We'll talk about that in a second. BTC 69,762. We hit 70,000 for like a couple of seconds. Then it fell right after that. Nice 4% gain on the day for Bitcoin. Again, this thing was at 56,000 at the end of April. One of the reasons that Robinhood is up 3.6% is because Bitcoin is up. And now we have seen that Robinhood is able to use the crypto volumes when Bitcoin goes higher and monetize them as per Q1 earnings. So that is a good thing for Robinhood as well. But we're seeing Bitcoin right here, 69,800. On top of that, MicroStrategy, $1,700 today. It's up 8% on the day. And the reason it's up 8% is because MicroStrategy is a proxy for Bitcoin. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got a lot to talk about. Number one, we've got Bitcoin. We'll get into that in a second. Number two, we've got NVIDIA earnings. I want to do a little bit more of a preview on that. Dan Niles, one of the equity research guys that I really respect. He has a good take on what he thinks is happening with NVIDIA, TLDR. He's bullish. So we'll talk about that. We also have the Fed President Bostic, who did a 10-minute sit-down interview. I'm going to play that a little bit later, and we're just going to listen to him talk for 10 minutes and see what he has to say about inflation, kind of influencing how they think about when a rate cut is coming or what will be the conditions needed for a rate cut. And then after the bell, we've got Palo Alto earnings, Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks, a very interesting one. I want to talk about what I think is going to happen on earnings. I think earnings are going to be okay, given I think cybersecurity is starting to recover a bit. If it's not, we might see a little bit of a dip in the CrowdStrikes and Fortinets of the world. If they do have a good earnings, then we should see Palo Alto do well. And of course, Nancy Pelosi will continue to make money because she bought the dip. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Let's get into it. So let's start off with Bitcoin. What the hell is going on with Bitcoin and why is it mooning right now? Now, there have been a lot of technical indicators saying that Bitcoin was getting ready to make a pretty big move. And over the past couple of weeks, these technical indicators have been getting positive reaffirmation, particularly above the $65,000 range last week. If we closed above 65, a lot of the people felt that we're doing technical analysis. The Fibonacci lines have been achieved again, or the levels have been achieved again, which means it is prime time for Bitcoin to get, from a technical perspective, back above the $65,000 range. Now, what's very interesting about this is that we talked about in the morning, it seems like the ETF inflows are the main reason for why we're seeing momentum continue to happen. The ETF inflows for the past 3 days have been exceptional. And when Bitcoin starts to go on a run, people start to buy more of the ETF. And if more people are buying the ETF, well, then it's going to have more inflows that are coming in. What's also really important about this is we've seen a lot of institutional money managers, including Millennium Management. They have 64 billion assets under management. I think they put 2 to 3 billion into Bitcoin. State of Wisconsin's pension fund. We have so many different institutional money managers. Oh, Morgan Stanley, I think yesterday disclosed that they have some money in Bitcoin. Let me pull that up right here. It's either JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley, one of those guys. We're seeing more money come into the asset class. And when you see more money come into the asset class, well, there's just going to be a lot more potential ultimately for there to be this kind of supply shock thesis play out that we've been thinking about for a very long time. And if that does happen, then we are going to see a lot of momentum when it comes to Bitcoin. So that's kind of the core thing we're seeing right here. Ethereum as well is doing phenomenal right now. Ethereum, like Bitcoin is at 69,923. We are literally just seconds away from 70K. Hopefully we see if we can get to 70,000 right here. 69,930. Ethereum as well had a pretty heavy candle, as you can see that right there, 3,420. This thing was at 3,000 today, so it's up literally $420, up 10% on the day. Ethereum has been lagging Bitcoin for a while, so it's nice to see that start to catch up with Bitcoin as well. Let's go to the crypto stocks. They are doing pretty well. Riot's up 9%, Marathon's up 15%, Hut 8 Mining up 7%, CleanSpark up 14%, Coinbase at 225. Coinbase was below 200. Bank of America upgraded them last week as well, but they were below 200, like 194-ish, 198-ish last week. So nice to see a rebound in them. Robinhood, $20.74. Bitfarms up 5%, and then MicroStrategy up 8% as well. MicroStrategy was $1,000 on May 1st. 20 days later, it is $1,714. So absolutely incredible price action as well that we're seeing from MicroStrategy. I haven't even looked at the meme stocks today, so let me get to those. Faraday Future, where's that one at? Okay, so it's still up 54%. It was at 217 in the morning, so that's down. Green Wave, that one is up 2%. Okay, so that one had a red candle. And then GME, I think, had a bad day. Yeah, GameStop down 5%. And then AMC, they were at under $20 at one point. AMC's up 6%. So the meme stock's not really doing what they're doing. It seems like, you know what it seems like? It seems like people made their money in meme stocks and they're putting it into Bitcoin. I mean, that's kind of what it seems like is happening right here. So we're definitely getting a little bit of momentum onto the crypto assets and maybe some outflows from the meme coin assets. Now, HIMS, incredible day as well, up 26%. It topped out around $20, $20.10. Now at 26% up for the day, $18.44. Lots of people have done very well on HIMS, so congrats to HIMS shareholders. For those that missed this news, GLP-1 drugs, sort of form of Ozempic, basically a version of Ozempic, has been approved by HIMS to be able to sell for a much cheaper price than some of the other versions of it on the market. And the market's pricing in some earnings growth as a result of that. Yeah, Marathon is also doing well. That is correct as well. So we're seeing momentum here. We're seeing a lot of momentum, and that momentum is coming from primarily the crypto assets, but also I think money leaving some of the meme coins and basically the way the meme coins have been operating. Now, Bank of America just said that the bar for the Fed rate hikes is high, but rate cuts are still far off. So a quote from Bank of America, the Fed should take comfort from April price data, but services inflation is still running above target. They're correct about that. Q1 inflation was too high, and single print should not deliver much comfort, especially if it annualizes to a rate much higher than consistent with the Fed's target. Furthermore, the economy is still solid, including services spending. The labor market remains tight. Supply tailwinds could fade, and elections are approaching. Essentially, their argument is, look, there's very low chance of a hike happening, but we still need better data for a cut. And so oil prices were down this morning. Shelter disinflation is going to have to start coming down significantly for us to get that cut in July. I do think if June gives us the right data that we need to see, we should get a cut in July, theoretically, if the Fed doesn't want to seem political and cut in September. Now, if the inflation data is just not that good in July, maybe the Fed just says, all right, screw it, we're going to do it in September. But one could argue that July is when we get that cut, again, assuming CPI tends to be on the path that starts to come down. Okay, we got Palo Alto after the bell. A lot of things to talk about, but I want to play a quick clip on expectations for Palo Alto Networks. The reason Palo Alto is so important is because they fell from 380 to 275. Nancy Pelosi bought millions of dollars of deep in the money call options. She's up almost 30% on those. It's up 14% in the past month, up 10% year to date, up 135% over the past year, but still is down from that high of 380. On the Palo Alto call last time, they said customers have fatigue in spending money in regards to cybersecurity. We don't want to hear that again. If we hear that again, the entire industry might take a little bit of a hit. So let's see what we can expect from that. In 7 minutes, we'll have their earnings after the bell.
Drew, is that there's just so much demand. Rising tide lifts all boats. Companies are spending more and they're needing to spend more on cybersecurity. What are the nuances that you're going to be looking for in the report? Because as we found out in the last couple months, it's not a one-way ticket higher for these stocks like Palo Alto.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sarah. So yes, the cybersecurity space has been under pressure year to date. I think there's only a couple stocks, CrowdStrike being one of them, has been a big outperformer relative to the NASDAQ. But Palo Alto has had some issues. They've missed billings expectations for 3 consecutive quarters now. I would say the stock is it is recovering. It dropped about 28% after the last earnings call last quarter, but got a lot of it back so far. You know, things we're looking for tonight, I would say our number one, billings. They've got a 3% guide for billings growth this quarter, coming off a 26% comp. That's the same comp they had last quarter when they grew 16%. So we think they can do about a 5% billings growth tonight, 20 million above the high end of guidance. Roll that into the guide for next quarter in the July quarter, puts you at about 10% growth in billings. That's still not where we'd like to see it. We'd love to see us getting back to the high teens, maybe 20% next year at this time. But they've got a number of positive things that have happened this quarter that I think gets them upside on the quarter in billings. Number one, you've got the Thunderdome deal that they said they've pulled out of guidance. They're rolling that's starting to roll out to 60 locations now. Second, they had a really strong quarter with the Fed, we think. They had a big Department of Energy deal.
They also had an IBM deal that was probably going to be for Q2, but that was announced, showing that there's signaling their strength in partnerships, and we're likely going to see more momentum coming from them, just from a partnership perspective, a growth perspective, hopefully, as he said, a billings perspective. And after the bell, we'll see more from Palo Alto. Bitcoin, 69,920. Look, that halving event was really important. There's only 450 new Bitcoin created every single day. If the ETFs gobble them up and the institutional money managers are coming in and big money is not stopping. And on top of that, I mean, ever since S&P got to 530, and, we saw Mike Wilson today say, look, 529.6 right now on the S&P. Mike Wilson, who was the biggest bear on the street, basically said, yeah, I was wrong. 540. That's what I expect for the S&P. There's liquidity in the system. There will be more liquidity in the system as the Fed does quantitative easing and they eventually cut. There will be more liquidity than we could expect that existed a year ago. On top of that, you got $6 trillion on the sidelines. There is money to make this happen. The meme stock rally is proving us that there's definitely money to make a rally happen in an asset class if it gains the momentum that's needed. So it's not like we're missing the money. It's a question of if there's enough interest to actually get in. And it seems like the interest is there, up from 56,000 in April on Bitcoin. The question now is how many institutional managers, like real big money, start to come in, which just keeps sending the signals to the broader market that Bitcoin is an asset class worth investing in. And so we'll see what happens. Bitcoin right here, 69,936 on the day. Probably, well, hopefully we can get to 70,000. That is also going to be psychological, though. 69,934. It's going to be really psychological for Bitcoin to get to those levels. Palo Alto Network, 323. So again, all-time high on this bad boy is 380. As you can see right here. 380. It was here. And then it fell all the way down to 263. That's when Nancy got in. Now it's at 323. So it's been a nice recovery. One could argue, this move from 260 to 320 has been what the market is priced in already for earnings. The question is, how good can they have in earnings today to kind of show a little bit more growth and get some momentum? Robinhood, 2080. We'll talk a little bit about Robinhood. We got the market close in 3 minutes. Robinhood's had a great day, man. Robinhood's had a great day. The thing that I loved about seeing Robinhood today is that it held 20 pretty strong. In the morning, I said, look, if we can stay above 19, I would be very happy, just because I know historically we've had to test 18, 17, 16 for a long time. So getting to 19 as support would make me feel really comfortable about where Robinhood is going. It seems like the cat's out of the bag and people get it. I cannot tell you how many Twitter accounts I'm coming across. Dude, I found a Twitter account today. Apparently I found the stock market champion of some national competition who has like 100,000 followers, and he tweets out, yeah, Robinhood, I'm getting in. And I was just like, I commented under, I was like, hey, what's your thesis? And he was like, I think it's going to go up. And I was like, all right, got it. Makes sense. Apparently he looks a lot of technical analysis, and that's how he came to his conclusion. But, I think it makes sense. If you look at the volume shelf resistance, we're seeming to pass certain levels where there's more price discovery versus resistance in regards to how much volume is needed to get the thing to go higher. $20, the bid at $20 was pretty easy today. I mean, we fell below 20 for like maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then after that, it was just $20, 2010, 2020, 2030, 2040, 2050. We kind of lived out a century in Robinhood today at $20.82. And now the question is, can we maintain this momentum? And honestly, start seeing price discovery around 21, 22, because I still feel $18 billion market cap growing at 40% year over year. $5 of the stock is cash. Like, you are literally buying cash. At the end of the day, you're investing in a company. You're investing in their cash flows. If they have $5 billion on the balance sheet, you're not investing in anything other than their cash, right? So take $5 billion off the market cap. You have $13 billion of an enterprise value. Question is, do you think that's relatively cheap? And I think that is, given the growth that we're going to see. On top of that, we've got the meme stock rally that's happened for the first week and a half of April or May. Sorry. That's going to create more numbers and growth for their May numbers, I think, which the market is also pricing in. Ethereum, 3,400, MicroStrategy, 1,724, Bitcoin, trying to get right there. Oh, wow. We're like $12 away. There you go. 70 grand. We got 40 seconds until the market closes. Let's see if we can close and get to that 70,000 level as well, and see if we can get there. Let's see if we can. Breaker says very emit evaluation. Yes, if it goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. That's the that's the evaluation. Okay, here we go. We got 30 seconds until the market close. Bitcoin 70K, and then we'll have Palo Alto Networks and see what's going on in the world of cybersecurity. We got a lot to talk about with the Fed, NVIDIA, GameStop as well, rallying into the close at 4%. Not bad to see. We'll see how this turns out as we close the markets. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Monday, May 20th, 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. Wow, Bitcoin surging above 70K as we get into the close. Look at that. Look at that. Bitcoin surging. Obviously, the market's closed. Bitcoin's not closed, but wow, 70,340 at the close. Robinhood closed at 2084. After hours is 2079, but it closed at 2084, which I believe, 2089 was the high for the day. 2084 was closed, 2079 after hours. Palo Alto Networks will get their earnings in a second. S&P closed right at 530. After hours, it's 530.19. GameStop's up after hours. AMC is up after hours. Let's look at the Max 7. Google, I think, hit all-time highs today as well. Apple, 191. Wow. 190, above 190 for Apple. Didn't see that. Microsoft, they had an event. We'll talk about what happened at the event. They introduced like Copilot Plus, so we'll talk about that. 425, Google, 178 on the day. Amazon, 183. NVIDIA, 948. And then Tesla here, 174. We also have to talk about Tesla because someone very big in the Tesla community sold 20% of their position today. So we'll talk about that. Okay, Bitcoin. So where are we at? Wow, still above 70. Still above 70,000. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. The money is starting to come in. The inflows are starting to be here. And today, if the inflows continue to be better, then we're going to see even more momentum. Now, the biggest thing when it comes to Bitcoin to understand about Bitcoin, at least from an inflow perspective, even if you don't, understand the ETFs that deeply or track them that deeply, is that this ETF, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, which, by the way, their CEO apparently got fired today or he left. This thing has been selling ridiculous amounts of Bitcoin for a very long time. And for the past 3 months, right? Because their fees were 1.5%. So people were taking their money, just putting it out into cheaper stuff, into cheaper ETFs. They have stopped selling a dramatic amount. I mean, for the past 3 days, it's been positive, and this month it has not been bad at all. So if this continues to happen, that means you finally have something that's not sucking all the Bitcoin out of the system and selling it every day. Because these ETFs, it would essentially become a wash when BlackRock would just buy whatever was bought, and then you couldn't get any upwards momentum. If that continues to go different, to be different from where it historically was over the past couple of months, and the institutions get back in, we're seeing more price discovery on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin right here, 70,177. MicroStrategy, Robinhood after hours. Wow, $20.88. It's up after hours. It's green. Cypher is green. MicroStrategy, 1730 after hours. Coinbase as well, 225. CleanSpark down a little bit after hours, 1831. Now it's up after hours, 1835, up 14% on the day. Robinhood, $20.90 after hours. Robinhood, $20.90. And we got Bitcoin here, 70,226 on the day. Put in the chat, which of these crypto stocks do you have? I'm looking at a ton of crypto stocks. You can see them on the screen. We got Marathon, Bitcoin, obviously Bitcoin itself, CleanSpark, Ethereum, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Robinhood, Bitfarms, any of these that you own personally in the chat as well. Inbound said, well, when will normies get the hood card? Don't worry. I don't even have the hood card. It's not like Vlad hooked me up, dude. I don't even have the hood card. So, and again, speaking of the hood card, real quick, there's been so much chatter that Robinhood doesn't know what they're doing with this 3% card. They let 5,000 people off of a wait list of 1 million people. I think a lot of people are undermining how much data analytics and math, and the fact that Vlad has a master's in math, like they're not messing around with rolling out a credit card. That's why they only let off 5,000 people on the list. They're doing cohort analysis, trying to make sure they get their stuff together and they can really deploy this correctly. And I think in the internal economics they've done, they're seeing that there's a good chance here, but they're being conservative, as they should be. So I think when that credit card does roll out, it will be a good experience versus just letting everyone get it immediately. Speaking of Vlad, he's going to be on another podcast today, 8 p.m., Earn Your Leisure podcast. I don't know if you guys know these three gentlemen, but they've had a podcast for about 4 years now, and they've interviewed a ton of CEOs, tons of guests. If you just type in Earn Your Leisure on YouTube, Vlad's going to be live 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be watching that, and I'll be curious to see how Vlad talks, given this is his first interview since the meme stock rally has been happening. So again, you can see he's going out there. He's putting his name out there. He's talking about the product. He's building momentum. This is what a CEO needs to be doing when your company is in a transitional phase to really capitalize on the moment and be the company you always thought it could become. So really nice to see that Vlad is continuing to get out there. All right, let's see what we guys have in the chat. Dougie Fresh has MicroStrategy, Hood, CleanSpark, Marathon, Cypher, Bitcoin, GBTC. Okay, so he has my entire watch list on Webull when it comes to crypto. Zoom after the bell and Palo Alto. Yeah, let me pull those up. Let me see if there's any move in those stocks. Okay, so let's make an earnings watch list real quick. We got Zoom today. I forgot about Zoom, to be honest. Thanks for mentioning that. Earnings. We got Zoom and Palo Alto. So let's look at those. Zoom and then PANW. Okay, so Palo Alto, we have nothing, which makes sense. Zoom is up 1%. Palo Alto, probably the numbers are coming out. Oh, no, there's a red candle. Oh, wow. Wow, right when I click on it, red candle. Right when so 405 when the numbers were supposed to come out, it's literally 405. Look at that. We got a negative 5%. Oh boy. Now, is that an overreaction? Oh, okay. There you go. That 1%, that 5% went to 1%. That 5% went to 1%. Let me pull up CNBC. They should be getting the numbers in a second. I also have Twitter loaded up to see if I can get the numbers. I don't have the numbers yet on Twitter. Okay. Oh, wait. No, not on Twitter. Not on Twitter. Okay. Let's check CNBC. Wow. That was down 7%. That's a real red candle. That's a real one. It doesn't look like a joke. That's a real one. Oh boy. CNBC doesn't have it yet. So I'm still on Twitter. That's definitely a real one. Okay, so let me pull up a couple things. Who's in Palo Alto, by the way? Put it in the chat. Or who's in any cybersecurity? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Zoom is a big Kathy one. She has a decent amount in that one. Zoom is also down 1% after hours. Palo Alto, wow, falling 8%. Oh my, what did they say, dude? What did these guys say? Yeah, I still don't have it on CNBC. Let me go to Twitter. Okay, do I have numbers? I got numbers. Revenue $2 billion, estimated $1.97 billion. Revenue $2 billion, estimated $1.97 billion. So they barely beat on revenue, but it is a beat. We got that. It is a beat. EPS of 132. Street wanted 125. So they beat EPS by 7 cents. They beat revenue by like 20 million. Billings, Q4 billings looks like they missed on billings and guidance, and that's why the stock is down. They beat top line. Why are they okay? I think here's the number. Do I have the correct number? Yeah. Okay. Here it is. I got it. So here's the PR. Here's the PR. Wow. Here's the PR. Here we go. So Palo Alto Networks, total revenue, $2 billion, 15% year-over-year growth. GAAP net income was $278 million or 79 cents a share diluted. Non-GAAP net income was $454 million. That's fine. CEO, we are pleased with the enthusiastic response to platformization. I messed up that word. From our customers in Q3, platformization. Okay, why does it keep saying this word? Is a long-term strategy that addresses the increasing sophistication and volume of threats and the need for AI-infused security outcomes. He also says we remain disciplined in our execution. That's fine. Third quarter, or their fiscal fourth quarter, or whatever they call it, they expect total billings to be $3.4 to $3.48 billion, representing year-over-year growth of 9 to 10%. I don't know if that's a miss, but it seems like that's why the street's upset. Total revenue, 2.15 to 2.17, which is 10% year-over-year growth. That's down from 15% right now. So that's a 5% year-over-year decline, quarter over quarter, based on the comps you put in 2023. Total billings in the range of $10 billion for the year. That's 10% growth. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's enough to justify. What the street is looking at. I mean, Palo Alto, it's definitely not cheap. Market cap of $104 billion, down 6% on the day. Let's see if CNBC has the coverage on these guys. You need deeper numbers to get there. Okay, so they're coming up with the coverage in a second, but you need deeper numbers to do that. All right, here we go. I think we got it. Oh boy, we'll check on CrowdStrike in a second. Oh, the CrowdStrike's down 2%. All right, so the entire cybersecurity marketplace is feeling this a little bit.
It's down. Julia Borsten has the numbers. Julia.
Well, Palo Alto beating on the top and bottom line. Revenues, just a slight beat, coming in at $1.98 billion versus the $1.97 billion estimated. Adjusted earnings of $1.32 per share were above the $1.25 that was estimated. And Q4 guidance is in line. The company guiding to between $2.15 billion and $2.17 billion. That's right around the estimate of $2.16 billion. And EPS guidance of $1.40 to $1.42. It compares to the expectations of $1.41. So that guidance is right in line. The stock is down over 6% in after hours trading now. Back over to you.
All right, but off the lows, Julia, thanks. Meanwhile, don't miss Jim Cramer's exclusive interview.
Okay, so the CEO will be on Cramer tonight, and he'll have some stuff to say. Let's go to the other companies. CrowdStrike. Zoom, by the way, is down 1%. I'll get their earnings in a second. CrowdStrike's down 1.3%. And then Fortinet, which people think is cheap, but I don't think Fortinet's cheap. People think it's cheap because it's like not $100 billion. It's at $47 billion, but I don't know if they're that cheap. That's down 1.52% as well. Bitcoin now below 70,000. So we had some people that thought at 70,000 they deserve to take profits, and so we saw some selling there. But 69,813 on Bitcoin now. Robinhood falling about 1% after hours as well. $20. Well, that was a fluke. Never mind. $20.85. Webull does this weird thing where it randomly goes up and down. CrowdStrike down 1.79%. And then Fortinet down 1.52. Wow. Palo Alto's down 7%, dude. 7%. I think Nancy's going to buy the dip on this too. I mean, it's basically at the price where she bought it at, wow, it's under 300. Oh my, it keeps going. She bought it at 275, I think. So she's still up on it. But Palo Alto Networks is not going anywhere. And they did get that new Fed deal in the quarter, which is probably why Nancy even bought them. She knew the federal government was going to give them money. Zoom's down just a little bit. I'm getting the earnings in a second, but I don't know if it's a buy the dip. We gotta hear the call. We're not gonna listen to it today, but we gotta see what the CEO has to really say. Zoom is earnings, EPS 135, beat expectations of 119, revenue of 1.14 billion, beat expectations of 1.13 billion. The problem with Zoom is that it's just not growing. Guys, Zoom is literally growing. I'm gonna put up their numbers in a second. Like 5% year over year. It's not growing. It's just sorry, not 5%. I was wrong. 3.2%. Here are the Zoom numbers. Let me know in the chat if anyone owns Zoom. Total revenue up 3.2% year over year. This is just not a growth name. It's not. It can't be a growth name, dude. You can't convince me there's an AI story here growing at 3% year over year. Like if there was any moment for AI stocks to surge higher, even if their growth is not amazing, just based on narrative, it's now, right? We're seeing this in a variety of different companies. Palantir, growing at 21%, not amazing growth, but still they're getting a premium because the market wants AI. If the market really thought Zoom was AI, which some people are trying to convince us that they are, this thing would not be growing 3.2% year over year, and it definitely would get a little bit more of a premium. Enterprise revenue of $665 million, operating margin 17%, cash flow $588 million. They bought 2 million shares of stock. They have $7 billion in cash, and they bought 2 million shares of stock. Goodness gracious, dude. Goodness gracious. This is insane. This is insanity, dude. Income from operations, 203 million. GAAP income was, wait, really? Oh, no, GAAP. Okay. So last year they made 9 million in profits. This year it looks like they made 203 million in profits. So net income's going higher. That's good. That looks like it's in the right spot. But the revenue is just not growing with it. Total cash. Look at this. They have 7.4 billion. So they have a lot of money, dude. I wonder if that money is just collecting net interest income as well. I actually don't know that about Zoom. Okay, a couple other stats. They said 3,883 customers contributing more than 100 grand in 12 months revenue. Approximately 191,000 enterprise customers. I wonder if that's 191,000 individual enterprises or 191,000 seats purchased at enterprises. So for example, if Microsoft is using Zoom, which they won't because they have Microsoft Teams and they have 10,000 people using Microsoft, I wonder if an enterprise customer is just Microsoft or 10,000 people in Microsoft. Because that would say a lot in terms of how much penetration they have in the broader marketplace. Trailing 12-month net dollar expansion rate of 99%, online average monthly churn of 3.2%. They're expecting 1.14 billion next quarter, so no growth next quarter either. And they're expecting around the same 4.6 billion for the year. They did $4.6 billion last year, if I'm not wrong. So Zoom is just not, there's not a growth story there. Zoom now down a little bit after hours, 1%. Palo Alto, wow, down 9%. Oh my goodness. 9%, bro. Pan might test 270 levels again. Yeah, it might. It might just. That's a nasty fall, dude. Down 10%. CrowdStrike. Where's CrowdStrike then? CrowdStrike's down 2%. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. June says, I'm not worried cybersecurity will win in the long term. I agree with you. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's just weird to see them not fix some of the core problems, or like, the reasons Palo Alto is down is because, again, they said there was customer fatigue for spending in cybersecurity last quarter. It doesn't seem like they issued any arguments in their guidance or revenue or in their preliminary statements that says that's changed. And I mean, the guidance obviously would signal that that's changed, and that guidance is not doing that. So that's interesting. I don't think that's an AI or SaaS phenomena. I think that's a cybersecurity phenomena. And maybe we're seeing a little bit of a saturation in the cybersecurity space, which is the issue here. Or this is a Palo Alto issue and CrowdStrike's eating their lunch. CrowdStrike's up like 300% over the past year. Palo Alto up 130%. So CrowdStrike obviously, executing at a very high level. And CrowdStrike's cheaper, up just on a pure market cap basis. They're 84 billion versus Palo Alto at 104 billion. Well, now Palo Alto's lost 10 billion, so they're 94 billion after hours. Crypto, let's see where Bitcoin is right now. It just hit 70K, 69.74. Okay, so there's a little bit of rejection at that 70,000 level, but the fact that we're there again is really exciting, I think, for the markets to get back to 70 grand. Zoom grew 325% in 2021 and 54% in 2022. A slowdown in growth was inevitable. I agree. And the problem is, like, people just don't need Zoom that much. I mean, I pay $15 a month for Zoom. Honestly, I don't even know why. Like, I probably don't need to. I do some meetings here and there. Like today I was on a meeting and I was using Microsoft Teams. And I mean, honestly, I love Zoom, but Microsoft Teams was not that bad. I know people say they hate it, but it wasn't, it wasn't horrible. So it's just like, at the end of the day, where's the real moat of Zoom? I do think it's an exceptional product, but I think Microsoft is doing what Microsoft does, the same thing they did with Microsoft Teams with Slack, and they forced Salesforce to buy Slack. They're $41 billion. They probably overpaid a little bit on that. Salesforce right here, 287 after hours. Maybe the same happens for Zoom. Maybe there's a buyout. Zoom's what? 19 billion bucks? Question is, who buys? Why would Google buy them? Why would Microsoft buy them? I mean, also, they would have to pay at least a premium. I would imagine they pay somewhere around 27 to 30 billion to buy out Zoom. I don't think Google needs to buy out Zoom. Neither does Microsoft. Who buys them? Cisco, maybe? I mean, but Cisco has their own web expert. Like, who uses it? It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Zoom. All right, we got NVIDIA earnings coming up as well. Here's Dan Niles, one of the equity guys I really respect on the street. He has some really interesting thoughts today around how we should think about NVIDIA earnings. So let's get an update from him, and then we'll talk more about NVIDIA that's coming up in 2 days as well. Here we go.
To date, recovering ground from that April pullback. But the biggest test, of course, might come Wednesday when NVIDIA reports Q1 results. Stock bouncing off a slew of price target increases today. Here to give us his read on the tech trade is Niles Investment Management founder and portfolio manager Dan Niles. Dan, great to have you. Interesting, provocative thoughts about NVIDIA on X this morning. You do think huge beat and raise, but maybe the pricing adjustment is more muted?
Yeah, I think you've got two things obviously balancing out. The stock's up over 90% year to date, obviously up over 500% since the end of 2022. And everybody on the planet knows there's a huge beat and raise coming. And so I think that's the negative in the sense that expectations are sky high. The positive is, believe it or not, the stock is trading 15% below its 5-year average on a PE basis. And so that's why my thoughts are you get a slight move up in the stock when they report, because it is actually historically cheap on a price to earnings basis.
The other thing you point out, longer term.
So that right there I thought was interesting as well. NVIDIA is trading right now 15% below its historical price from a price to earnings perspective over the past 5 years. And if we know a big beat is coming, by the way, I have something that I think can really explode NVIDIA stock, I'll say after he talks, then it seems pretty obvious that this is going to be a decent quarter for NVIDIA.
Is you wouldn't be surprised to see multiple drawdowns of 25, 35% over the coming years. What does that say about its tenure as sort of the king of this market?
Well, I think if you go back, one of the things I try to focus on is, do we have an analogy for this period of AI infrastructure build? And of course we do. It's called the internet build out that happened in the mid 90s. And if you go back and you look at the king of the internet build out, if you want, Cisco, which became the most valuable company in the world in 2000 for a period of time, that stock had multiple drawdowns of 25 to 35%. It was down 26% in late 95, down 38% in 97, and down 34% in 1998. The stock went up 4,000% though from the end of 94 till its ultimate peak in 2000. And so with NVIDIA, you should expect to see the same kind of thing, because I think anybody who's really familiar with semiconductors completely realizes there's been double and triple ordering this whole time. And so the question becomes, when do you go through a period of a digestion before you start the next buildup? And because you've seen lead times come down from a year, which means you order a chip today, you can only get it a year from now. That's now gone down to 3 months. At a certain point, and I think this happens after their latest generation chip called Blackwell comes out, once customers get that chip, then they can go ahead and figure out, okay, we double and triple ordered, how much do we need? I think that digestion phase comes in the early part of next year before we start the next build again, because we're still really early in the AI build. It's only been, a little over a year since we heard about this thing called ChatGPT and OpenAI.
Now, when he's talking about the build, he's talking about how Cisco started building the early rails of the internet. We've all heard the story many times. But if we're in the early innings of what it means to build out AI, yeah, there's going to be drawdowns in that process, but it's a story that's going to evolve over the next 4 or 5 years. He thinks, there's a 2-3x left in video over that time because of the fact that there's too much going on, as we talked about in the morning, that's going to require NVIDIA's products. And as a result of that, multiples can expand.
And then what? You think the party comes to an end for NVIDIA stock?
No, I think the revenues will go up 3 to 4x from current levels over the next 3 to 4 years. And I think the stock goes with it because, you go back and you look at Cisco and the internet build out, a lot of the companies that were driving that were unprofitable companies that were raising debt to be able to fund that build out. You look at today for the AI build out, well, who's really driving that? It's the most profitable companies on the planet. It's Microsoft, it's Google, it's Meta, and they're driving this. So the odds of this continuing to proliferate over the next 3-4 years is high. I'm just saying that with the lead times having come in, don't think that this is a straight stair step up because it wasn't for the internet either.
Now that argument I thought was a very interesting argument, right? The reason NVIDIA has the capacity to sustain these multiples is because the companies that are fueling NVIDIA's revenues and their ability to expand the multiples and ultimately inch higher from a earnings perspective, which inevitably affects the stock, is because the biggest companies in the world, Meta, Google, Amazon, etc., Microsoft, are piling money into NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is not only the ultimate picks and shovels. What's different from now in 1999 was that the picks and shovels plays like Cisco were getting, money from the pets.coms of the world that didn't even have the money to give them to build the internet, which is why we had a pretty rough crash in 2000. Right now, Meta and Google, Meta fell 10% after earnings because they increased CapEx. Most of that money's going to NVIDIA. Same thing with Google, Microsoft, etc. And so I think that's an interesting argument. I'm curious if Jensen speaks on the hyperscalers basically prolonging the ability for NVIDIA to gain momentum and ultimately expand the earnings growth that they're looking for. We got an update right here, folks. Eric Balkunas, I might be saying his name wrong, but he's one of the head Bloomberg ETF journalists. He says, he tweeted this literally 40 minutes ago. Update, we're increasing our odds of spot Ether ETF approval to 75% from 25%. When this guy says something about ETFs, you want to listen. He is one of the biggest journalists when it comes to crypto ETFs. Hearing chatter this afternoon that the SEC could be doing a 180 on this, and so now everyone is scrambling, like us, assuming everyone would be denied. In a this tweet right here says SEC decision deadline this week on spot Ether ETFs. SEC must approve both 19B4 exchange rule changes and S1s for the ETFs to launch. Technically possible for SEC to approve 19B4s and then slow play the S1s. This is really interesting. Eric was one of the first people to report that the Bitcoin ETFs were being approved. And the reason why is because he was talking to the Bitcoin ETF providers. And those providers were signaling to him, hey, we're having conversations with the SEC, and those conversations are becoming much more productive, not just like them slamming the door in our face. So we're seeing, as a result of that, Ethereum get a nice candle as well. Because of that, look at ETH right there. Bitcoin's down a little bit after hours. ETH has not given up the gains, up 11% based on this story that the spot ETH ETFs might continue to come higher. What's his name? BlackRock, Fidelity. I'm sure these guys would play this game as well. They're going to be the ones offering an Ethereum ETF. ARK might get into this game. I think ARK already has like a pseudo ETH spot ETF, but it's just not official yet. Which means all of the infrastructure needed to take the money from retail and institutions into Bitcoin ETFs, that infrastructure seems to be built out. All they have to do is build it for Ethereum. Now, what that's really bullish for, and that's probably why Coinbase actually went up today, is Coinbase, up 8% on the day. I would imagine that Coinbase becomes the institutional custodian of the Ethereum ETF as well, because who else is going to do it, right? It's got to be Coinbase. So that's very bullish for Coinbase. They did $256 billion of trading volumes just on the institutional side, $56 billion on the consumer retail side last quarter. I would imagine if this gets approved, probably not this quarter, but next quarter, that's when those trading volumes would be higher for Ethereum as well. So that's important. That's really, really important for the ETH ETF. And we'll see by the end of this week if the SEC actually starts to approve at least some of the documentation, because if they do, we know what's going to happen. Also, Eric said in his statement that this might be a political thing that's going on. I read a couple of reports this morning that Democrats are overwhelmingly starting to be anti-immigrant, given some of the problems we're having in the United States with the border. And they're realizing the border is like a top 3 political issue this election cycle. And so Biden just put out this bill around immigration. Democrats are like starting to be, like we're tough on immigration, when for the past couple of years, they kind of reversed a lot of the Trump policies on immigration. So that's a political issue. And then crypto, Trump said if he gets into office, A, he's getting rid of JPAL. And then B, I think he said, if I'm not wrong, he's definitely getting rid of Gary Gensler. So, I mean, he wants to be crypto friendly. I think he even said in some conference like a couple of weeks ago, hey, if you care about Bitcoin, you need to vote for me. Biden has never said anything like that. Biden has never said, hey, I'm the crypto guy, I'm going to protect your money. Like, he's never made a statement around a political statement around crypto. Trump has. And so if this is a one issue voter, if you're a single issue voter and crypto is your single issue because you might have a lot of fucking money in crypto, then, I mean, you could see a lot of people voting for Trump just based on the fact that he's going to be crypto friendly. And it seems like the Democrats are starting to realize, hey, maybe we need to nudge the SEC to not reject this thing if we want to get reelected. So we will see how that plays out, but that's some of the momentum that we're seeing as well in the crypto ecosystem. Okay, let's look at some of these other stocks. GameStop's down 2% after hours. AMC's down 1.8%. Palo Alto, let's go back to them. They are down 8% after hours, continuing to go down. Faraday Future down about 1%. Carnival Cruise Line up 7% on the day. Not bad for Carnival Cruise. They're down a little bit after hours. Elf, I think, has earnings tomorrow or in a couple of days. Going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. We talked about this one in the morning. It's down like 20% from the peak, but it's still up 8% year to date. So guidance for them and same store sales is going to be the metric that matters the most for them. Coinbase 225, Robinhood after hours $20.75, S&P 500 529.79 as well. Look at the move at CTNT. Okay, CTNT, Cheetah Net Supply Chain Service. Holy crap, what is this? Cheetah Net Supply Chain Service, dude. Every day we do this show, one of you in the chat says, hey, look at this. And it's just some stock that's going to the moon literally every day, dude. I think we've done this for like 5 days in a row. Cheetah Net Supply Chain Services. Okay, here's the website. It's up 80% after hours. One-stop services, including warehouse, logistics, international trading, and supply chains. Cheetah Net Supply Chain Service. Why the hell is this thing up? Do they have earnings? What is going on here? They announced they literally did a share offering, which I don't think sounds like good news. Yeah, that's a public offering. That's dilution, if I'm not wrong. Why are they up 85% after doing dilution? Let's look at the revenue right here. Revenue, do we have any numbers? They did $8 million in revenue, it looks like. Okay. Why the hell is this up? Is this another, who's pumping this thing on Reddit? What is going on, dude? Cheetah Net Supply Chain. It's up 94% after hours. Hold on, I'm about to look at this on Twitter. What the hell is going on? CTNT. Is this becoming a meme stock? Is this a short interest? Hold on, let's look at the short interest. It looks like everyone's just finding the stocks that are shorted and squeezing them. No, this isn't a short interest thing. Well, there's no way. There's 6,000 shares short out of like 40 million or 24 million. This can't be because they have a cool name. Like, there's no short interest. Unless I'm reading it wrong, the short interest is 6,000 shares. It's like 0.4% of the float. I don't think that could be it. Huh. SPWR. Yeah, I forgot about this one. This one is heavily short as well. SPWR. That one's down a little bit today. It's up a little bit after hours. It was down 1% for today, up 1% after hours as well. Amit, you should donate your hair genetics to HIMSS to study to improve their product. That's an interesting argument. Speaking of HIMSS, let's actually bring this question to you guys because I tweeted about this. HIMSS right here. Oh, let's do the Tesla news. Let's do the Tesla take, then we'll do the HIMSS take. Okay, so let's talk about Tesla. So Warren Redlick, I don't know. We're not going to listen to the Palo Alto call. We're not going to listen to them. If anyone wants to listen, they can. But I mean, dude, I think we tried listening to them last time. It's fucking boring, dude. They're talking about cybersecurity. Like it's just not interesting, dude. It's just not interesting. But we'll get updates for tomorrow based on what they said after the call. Okay, first couple things. Number one, I forgot to mention, this is what NVIDIA needs to do to get the stock to go up. This is the only thing, quite frankly, Jensen Huang needs to do tomorrow. We need a split, baby. We need a split. If Jensen Huang says we're doing a 10-for-1 split and they beat the 22.8 billion expected on Wednesday, NVIDIA will go above $1,000. I think that will happen. And then the stock split will get that sucker 10-for-1 to $100. I think there's like, how many shares outstanding on NVIDIA? How many shares outstanding? There are NVIDIA stock shares. I think it's like 7 billion outstanding. I might be wrong on this. No, sorry, 2.5 billion. Apple is 7 billion. So 2 billion shares outstanding. They do this. They do it by 10. You get 20 billion shares outstanding for NVIDIA. That's going to create a lot of more volatility in the market. I mean, it's also there's going to be a lot of movement happening when you have 20 billion shares. But the last time they did a split was October 2021. They did 4-for-1. Second of all, their employees would love a split. Even Jensen Huang said on a meeting with Cramer once that it's really good for employees and liquidity, things of that nature. Number three, the options chain would explode because now people are like, oh, you know, buying a call on NVIDIA saying it'll get to 2,000 by XYZ price and it's at $900. Psychologically, it's like, if it's at $100, say, oh, I think it'll get to like 150 by XYZ date. It just, you know, $50 seems like it's more achievable, even though realistically that's not what a stock split does to a stock. And more momentum can pile in. I think if they do a split, it's going to be exciting. And I think I don't think they need to do a split, but at this point, you know, at $1,000, I don't want to be looking at NVIDIA $2,400. Like, it's time to get this thing back down to earth and make it easier for regular people to want to buy the stock. So I don't know if they'll do it, but if they do it, I think it would be pretty exciting. Okay, let's talk about Tesla. Let's talk about Tesla as well. Here we go. Let's talk about Tesla. So I have a friend named Warren Redlick. I don't know if you guys know this guy. He's a big Tesla person in the community. And it's because more people can afford options. That's also correct as well. That's also correct. So Warren Redlick sold 20% of his Tesla stock today. And this is why he did it. Significant risk. The shareholders vote no on the compensation package. This would be correctly seen as a vote of no confidence in Elon. Elon is likely to leave if it happens and he's rejected from his compensation package. If Elon leaves, the AI team leaves quickly as well. The dream is dead. The stock collapses and the company never recovers. There's not much upside in a yes vote. Now, I thought this was interesting. And the reason I thought this was interesting is because Warren has been investing in Tesla since 2016. I mean, he's been a Tesla guy since the beginning of it. I've done a couple podcasts with him on the channel. He obviously, I mean, dude, he was saying Tesla was cheap at like $240, right? Like he's always been like, Tesla, you just buy Tesla whenever you have free money. Now he's not selling it from a valuation perspective. He's selling it because if Elon ends up leaving, which I didn't even think was any chance of a possibility, but apparently he thinks there is a chance, then Tesla collapses, which I think he's right. But there's two caveats. Number one, and this is the question to the chat. Do you think Elon leaves if he gets voted no on the compensation package? And do you sell your stock if Elon leaves? Those are the two questions. First, I think the compensation package doesn't get rejected. I think overwhelmingly it's going to be voted for. I know there's a lot of chatter. I think it gets at least 60% of votes, and people are going to vote for this thing to happen. Number two, if they don't vote for it to happen, I don't think Elon leaves. I think he just makes another compensation package that's a bit cheaper than the 56 billion. Maybe they go to 35 billion or something, and they put that out to a vote for shareholders as well. But I don't think I think the vote is like the announcement is going to happen later in June. I don't think there's a way that Tesla, his ego is too big to stay. That's also what I was thinking. I mean, dude, his ego, he has a big ego. And I think he wants Tesla to be the company that is the company of all companies of all time, right? So I don't think he leaves. I think they find a way to maneuver this. Tesla right now, 174 down 1.41% of the day. I also think that Tesla and shareholders are just not going to reject Elon's comp. All the people that are being so vocal about his comp, I think they're a small minority in the grand scheme of things. The institutional money managers, the BlackRocks of the world, are not going to use their, 200-300 million shares and vote no. I don't think that's happening. And I definitely think retail is not going to let that happen. So Kathy's not going to vote no. Adam Jonas is not going to vote no. So it was really weird. He sold 20% because I guess he's thinking that, okay, the alarm is going off in my house right now. There must have, you guys can hear it, right? Yeah, my mom. I'm going to put this on mute real quick and play a video, and it'll be done in like 2 minutes. Give me 1 sec, guys. This is the Fed president speaking. Sorry, it's probably my mom cooking, dude. That's what it is. Here, we'll play this for like 30 seconds, then we'll be back.
I'm not going to ask you when you're going to cut rates because nothing's.
Okay, we're done. We're done. Thanks, Mom. Thanks a lot. That was great. There's no one breaking into the house, dude. No one breaking into the house. It's just, this is she gets mad at me sometimes when I cook eggs or something and the alarm goes off. She gets mad at me, and it's like, well, it seems like she's not perfect at figuring out how to make sure the fire alarm doesn't go off. Let me know in the chat if that happens to anyone as well, because I end up doing it, and I've gotten better at not letting that happen. But it seems like she is not gotten that much better. Anyway, what I was saying about Elon is I don't think anything's happening with Elon. I think he's going to stay in Tesla. I think he's going to win his votes, and as a result of that, I think someone like Warren Redlick selling 20% of his stock, it's really interesting. Maybe he just needed the money more than he wanted to sell, and this was his excuse, because I just don't think there's a significant risk to the shareholders voting no. But maybe he knows Tesla more than me. He's been covering the company more than me. Maybe he thinks there's a real risk, and if that's the case, maybe this is a good sell because Tesla drops to like 100 after Elon gets rejected from his compensation package. So we'll see. Someone said, I wish he'd leave. I saw a lot of people say that today. I wish he'd leave. I think some people are, I don't know. I just disagree with that. I think if Elon leaves, Tesla is done. Ethereum, wow, up 14%. So that Ethereum ETF news is really getting there for Ethereum. Remember, Ethereum's all-time high is 4,800. Bitcoin, 69,790. We've never seen Ethereum above 4,800, and it barely touched 4,000 a month ago. So it's kind of getting close. 3,500. That ETF gets approved. Maybe the same thing happens with Bitcoin, and maybe more money goes into crypto in general, which helps Bitcoin, Ethereum, all those companies, or all those crypto assets in general, since more money is starting to flow in. I mean, if you buy Ethereum, you may say, hey, maybe let me buy some Bitcoin. Institutional money managers, BlackRock meets with them, say, hey, put 100 million in Bitcoin, put 100 million in Ethereum, and you just get all this money flowing in because the ETFs are officially approved. Okay, what did you guys say in the chat on Tesla? Then we'll move on from this. Midwest says, you're so lucky you get home cooked mom food. That is correct. Even if the alarm goes off in the middle of the show, I'm very lucky for that. How are you setting off the fire alarm making eggs? Dude, sometimes I just like forget to turn on that thing above the ventilator, and then it just like, I don't know, it's just like the steam goes up there, and then boom, the alarm goes off. Our alarm is also very sensitive. Dude, you guys know last night we lost power literally at 9:50 p.m. I sent out Daily Palantir, the newsletter I make. I sent it out at 9:50. At like 9:50 and 30 seconds, boom, we lose power, the whole block, for like 4 hours. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I should go to sleep now. And so the house is definitely really sensitive to like any type of smoke. But yeah, we lost power last night as well. Okay, most people are saying you don't think Elon's going to. If Elon really cared about sustainability and the mission, he wouldn't leave over a few less percent ownership. I agree, dude. I agree. I don't think Elon's leaving, even if he makes a little bit less money. I think he's going to be okay. Mom, the meatloaf. Yeah, most people are saying Elon's gonna do its thing. Pay package not approved. Elon's not leaving. That's his baby. I agree. I don't think Elon's leaving. I just don't think it's happening. Okay, cool. Someone says we got Palantir insider selling. Let me see if we have some Palantir selling today as well. So let's go to Palantir's IR. I bought like 200 shares of Palantir today. I've liked under 22. I like buying under 22, so I've been buying under 22. I posted that on Twitter. Do we have anyone selling today? Okay, I don't see it yet on my side. If you guys have the link, let me know. Whoever's saying Palantir selling, I don't see it on my side. We know Teal sold last week, but this is from May 10th, so I don't see any new sells yet. Peter Pan says, can't believe I'm listening to a boy who's still living with his mom. Peter Pan, isn't your name Peter Pan? Isn't Peter Pan supposed to be a kid forever? Like that's you should of course be. You should love listening to a kid who still lives with his mom. All right, I'm gonna let Fed Bostic, the Fed president, speak for 10 minutes. So this is important. He's not as important as J Powell, but this guy really does matter when it comes to what the Fed's policy is. So I'll maybe stop in between and say some things. But here he is. He's also one of the best communicators. I mean, this guy, first of all, his voice is phenomenal, and he knows what the hell he's saying. Now my mom's on the phone with one of her Indian auntie friends. I can literally hear her from downstairs talking on the phone, dude. This woman just loves making noise. All right, here we go. Fed Bostic on interest rates.
I'm not going to ask you when you're going to cut rates because nothing's probably changed in your view, that it's not time yet, you need more confidence, and you've been the one saying maybe one later this year. That's the same, right?
Nothing has changed. Well, first of all, good morning. It's good to see you, and welcome to the conference. It's good to have you here. No, what you said is exactly right. The numbers have come in for the first part of this year, very bumpy, and it really suggests that inflation is going to come down far slower than I think many had expected. And so rather than focus on numbers of cuts and all that kind of stuff, really the issue right now is, when are we going to be certain that inflation is clearly on its path to 2%? I think it's going to take a while before we'll know that for sure.
Well, what is it that tells you that maybe you'll only get one or you might get no cuts this year? What do you see in the economy?
Well, we do a lot of talking to business leaders, and what they're all telling us is things are slowing down, but they're slowing down very slowly, coming off of pretty high record levels of profits and revenue. So in that instance, there's going to be continued momentum in the economy, and that momentum is just going to take a while to play through. The other thing everyone tells us, though, is that pricing power is weakening. They do know that the expansion and large growth is not in their outlooks and on the table. And so for me, that says, yeah, it's going to slow down, it's going to get there, but it's only going to be eventual.
Is it likely that inflation doesn't go down, or that it could go up again?
Well, as you know, anything can happen. My outlook is really that inflation will continue to fall through this year and into 2025. I think that it will take quite a while for us to get all the way to 2%, but I do think we'll get there. But of course, the unexpected can always happen, and we've seen that through the last 3 or 4 years, where the pandemic was not expected, a war in Europe wasn't expected, and they do send ripples through the entire economy. If that happens, we'll just have to be ready and then respond as appropriate.
One of the themes of this conference is sort of what happens next. So what happens next? You're higher for longer now, and some think you're going to be higher forever, that we're not going back to low interest rates.
Well, I don't think we're going to go, well, let me say this. I hope we don't go back to zero interest rates, because that means something will have happened that requires us to go to maximum support for the economy, and that would not be ideal for anybody. I do think that our new steady state is likely to be higher than what people have known over the last decade, maybe back to where we were in the 1990s and 2000s, but we'll just have to see. But I do think a strong, important message people should have is, going back to zero means that something bad happened in the economy, and we want to avoid that as much as possible.
Well, what do you say?
And that's a big point. For the next decade, we might have 3-4% interest rates, and that's just how it is. But it's not going to be the 0% rates we had during 2019, 2020.
To people who want to move, or people who want to buy a new car, hold on, wait, or how long do these industries have that they can hold out until you decide what you're going to do next?
Well, I don't think anyone's waiting for us at this point on the business side. You see in the auto space that producers and auto dealers, they're adding incentives for people to buy their cars. We talked to lots of major sellers of cars. They're trying to move volume. They are trying to do those things. And I think for consumers, it's really shop around. It's like back to where we used to be and how the economy used to work. You got to go find where there are opportunities. They're out there, but people just need to live their lives. And what I'm finding and seeing is most of them are doing that. The housing and home ownership, that's a special case, and people are locked into those. But even there, because we have remote work and we have people working in these hybrid situations, there are opportunities for people to continue to stay engaged in the economy.
Well, a lot of people look at the housing industry, for example, and other areas that have started to slow down. And there's an argument that maybe you're going to be behind the curve in cutting rates.
I don't think that that's really the right way to think about it. For me, our mandate is stable prices and maximum employment. On the employment side, we're still seeing many, many jobs being created. On the inflation side and stable prices, we've still got a ways to go. And so for us, and I think given our mandates, we need to get that stable pricing aside to where we need it to be, because at that point, then the economy will be positioned to stand on its own, to move forward, and to create growth and prosperity.
When you get asked, when you're going to cut rates, and you give the answer that you give, and your colleagues get asked and give the answer that they give. You've said as a group that we're not doing forward guidance anymore, but is this a forward guidance that you're doing anyway, because it does seem like you're guiding the markets, or at least the markets are reacting to everything you say?
Well, I think the markets have always reacted to everything we say, so I don't think this is new. What I would say, though, is we are open to all possibilities, and from here moving forward, there are scenarios where the economy is going to expand and accelerate. There are scenarios where the economy might slow down faster than expected, and then there is my outlook scenario, which is slow and steady wins the race. In all of those cases, there are policy prescriptions, and we have to be ready for all of them. So in this sense, unlike in the pandemic or even the great financial crisis, when we knew that most of the risk was on one side, now the risks are really balanced, and so there isn't sort of a bias in one direction or another. I think that's the message to be taken. If you want to call that forward guidance, that's fine. I mean, to me, I think in many regards, that's life. Like, life is, you don't know, something good can happen, something bad can happen, and you just have to be ready for it.
Well, you've got another month essentially before you have your next meeting, and you have to put out your forecasts. But you want to give us a sneak preview of what you think growth and inflation are going to be like for the rest of the year?
Well, I've been told many times, don't scoop yourself. So I don't know. You know what the way our process works is, as we get closer to the meeting, I meet with my team. We really try to get a sense of where everybody is on this. You know, I have a bunch of great economists in our building who have their own views and opinions about how the economy is going to move forward. I take that on board, and we'll get to a narrative at that point. But right now, I'm just worried about this conference, making sure it goes off as well as it can. And I'm really looking forward to
You're
the
going to be just one dot by yourself on the dot plot when it comes out.
Well, we'll see about that.
So really didn't say anything insane or different that we didn't know, but did make the argument clear that we are looking to be data driven and see what happens in regards to inflation from the data that we get. Now, the one thing he did say was that he doesn't really think a hike is on the table, just given that inflation has cooled down enough. And as June said in the chat, they're kind of reorganizing the definition of what they think an interest rate should be like, but they haven't gone away from the 2% target, at least publicly. Now, we know if we get to like 2.7, 2.6, 2.5 on CPI, they're definitely going to cut, right? Because we're getting close to 2. But they haven't publicly said that, we're looking for 2.7 or 2.8. They still remain steadfast on that 2% number. Bitcoin falling from 70,000. It was at 70,452, got rejected. Now it's 69,254. Ethereum up 12%, hit 35.78, now at 34.86. Good momentum on both of them. Bitwise just tweeted that they just got $26 million in inflows today. So we are seeing tons of momentum in regards to the ETFs, and we'll see what BlackRock and Fidelity did. But those ETF inflows seeming to be strong, which is allowing Bitcoin and crypto in general to go higher. Now, again, one of the interesting things about the ETH ETF, if you're just joining, Bloomberg today reported that there's a 75% chance this thing gets approved. It's up from 25%. Again, if that happens and you have lots of money coming into Ethereum, my question is, where's that money coming from? One could argue it's on the sidelines in money market funds with $6 trillion. That would be bullish for the market. One could argue that the crypto stocks that benefit, even if they're not benefiting literally from Ethereum, but from the money liquidity that's coming to the system, something like a Robinhood, something like a Coinbase, even something like a MicroStrategy to an extent, because if Bitcoin goes higher, because Ethereum goes higher, MicroStrategy does well. There's a lot of ways the crypto narrative can continue to unfold if those ETH ETFs get approved by the end of the year or before the end of the year, which would be very bullish for the overall crypto markets. Robinhood after hours, $20.72. Bitfarms, $184. CleanSpark, $18.17. Coinbase, $2.24. Bitcoin, $69.4. And then Ethereum here, $34.90 on the day. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. We'll talk more about the macro with Chris tonight on Finance Junkies. So we'll go a little bit further in terms of what the Fed said today and what else we're seeing in the macro. Oh, here's what I wanted to end it off with. We'll do this and then I'll be done for today. Palo Alto still down 9%, and Zoom after hours, they are down. They're flat. Zoom's flat. Palo Alto's down 9.2%. We'll see if anything changes. They've been talking for 20 minutes on the call. Probably haven't done Q&A yet, so probably within the next 30 minutes, this thing might recover a little bit or go down more if the answers aren't the best. Okay, so this is the last thing I wanted to end on. Hims. So I tweeted this today, and I'm curious to see what people have to say because I tweeted. Also, real quick, before I mention that, I am going to beta test, or not beta test, but I'm going to literally test transferring my money out of a brokerage into Robinhood. So I realized I had $4,000 in another brokerage. All of it's in Palantir. And I was like, wait a second. Why do I have this in this other brokerage? Why don't I just like put it into Robinhood? So I transfer that into Robinhood. So I'm going to show you guys what it's like to do a transfer request, the ACAT transfer. I'm going to get 1% on that 4,000. So I'll get $40, buy another 2 shares with that $40 of Palantir. And so this should be done in 5 to 7 days. I'm going to see how smooth the process is, how my cost basis adjusts to the shares when they get in and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens there. But I am transferring some money into Robinhood, and we'll see what that process looks like as well. Okay, so this was the Hims tweet that I put out today that got some people in their feels. Some people agreed, some people disagreed, but we'll see what it says. My question for those who sold Hims due to the CEO's political comments last week, did his comments actually matter more than you making money? And in general, it's a question to people about how they think of political CEOs versus the company doing well. So I get not wanting to support him personally if you genuinely just don't believe in what the guy stands for, and that's totally fine. But the company itself, like Hims, the company selling dick pills versus, the Andrew Dum, whatever his name is, the CEO, it has nothing to do with his views. And if you made money from the stock, you could actually donate or fund the political causes you cared about as a result of the capital gains. So in general, does it ever really make sense to sell a stock due to a CEO's politics? Especially we saw Google go down to 130. I'm sure Sundar Pichai is not the biggest conservative in the world. I would probably argue he's a bit more liberal, and some of the woke Gemini stuff is because of the culture he's created in the company. Was that a reason to sell Google, given Google now is approaching all-time highs? And so that was the question to the chat. Hims up about 30% on the day. Did it make sense to sell based on what the CEO said? Or is the CEO selling actually irrelevant in the context of what the stock price needs to be? Green Wave's down 65%. Of course. Is it after hours down? Wow. After hours is down 65%. Goodness gracious. Let me pull that up. You guys can put your answers in the chat. Wow. So this was the one Kevin was buying. This was the second Faraday future. That means Faraday future should be down, right? Faraday future is down 5%. If Greenway is down 65%. Wow. Yeah, this one was pitched as like the next Faraday future one. Okay, Max says I sold some today, but not because of the CEO, because of 30% in a day. I agree. Not a horrible reason to sell. Even if it's not about the CEO, it's definitely up a lot on the day. Not a good idea. Just sell the shares at whatever and buy them back at whatever. Okay. All right. I think you're talking about for the Robinhood transfer on that. Well, it doesn't matter that much, dude. It's $4,000. It's not like a lot of money. That's why I didn't think it was that big of a deal to sell it or not. Savici says it does matter for retail-minded millennials. That's what I'm thinking, dude. I think a lot of the people that sold Hims were not institutions. It had to be retail, because I don't know how much an institution cares about the CEO supporting Palestine or Israel. Like, I know some institutions, right? They probably have certain ideals and stuff. And obviously you can't be a CEO that's like advocating for the worst things on planet Earth, right? Because then you're just not going to be able to get the big money on board. But, the guy did not say, I love Hamas. He said stuff that was controversial, but it was controversial in the context of how he framed it. It was not literal, explicit, like, yes, Hamas is the best. And so, I don't know. I don't think institutions sold the stock. I think it had to be a little bit more on retail. Endless Awareness says, Amit, I think it matters only in that so many variables can impact a stock. And if the CEO is spouting off about some issue, it adds to all the variables one has to take into account. So that's what I think the answer is as well. I think when a CEO starts talking about a company or starts talking about politics and they're CEO of a public company, there's so many variables associated with NVIDIA. If Jensen Huang tomorrow says, I believe in abortion, or I don't think abortion is right, I think there's already so much pressure on NVIDIA. Now you got the CEO basically pissing off a lot of evangelical Christians, or he's pissing off people that are pro-choice or pro-life, whatever it may be. Like, that's going to create volatility in the stock. So I agree with you there. I think the CEO creating volatility in the company because there's already so many factors that affect his stock is not good. However, when they do it, the question is, do you sell? Does NVIDIA's revenue stop growing because Jensen Huang doesn't care or, has a certain perspective on abortion? I don't know. It's hard to say that that's the reason to have a positive reaction to sell the stock. So I don't know. It is very, very interesting to see how that played out, because Hims is a classic example. The reason I think it's so interesting to talk about is, dude, this guy said stuff that pissed off a lot of people. Stock's up like 50% since then. I mean, I think it fell to like the low 11s the day he said that stuff. And the GLP-1 drugs that were approved today, they don't have anything to do with his politics. Now, some people said, oh, well, CARP's political, but you don't care about that. The reason I think it's good for CARP to be political, in general, I don't like when CEOs are political, is because he's selling software to Israel. So if a guy's selling software to Israel, he's probably got to talk about his thoughts on Israel. CARP is selling software to the DoD. He probably has to tell the DoD what he thinks about Western values and American values, right? So CARP, remember, Palantir's a government contractor before they're a commercial company. 60% of the revenue is government. So I think CARP, you can't not be political. And by the way, CARP has probably held his tongue many times, just like Elon holds his tongue every time they ask him about China, the CCP, free speech. He just doesn't say shit about it because, you know, he's a free speech absolutist in the United States, but he knows if he talks bad about China, it can hurt relations, right? So he's very strategic about this. So is CARP. But in general, CARP's business is getting the government and getting Western countries like NATO countries on board. And most of the time he pisses them off with the stuff he says about Germany and them being bureaucratic and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, he has to express that he's on their side. So I think it's very interesting. And I think ultimately it's a case by case, company by company basis on how you have to talk about politics in order to get recognition by the broader marketplace. The reason I didn't like the Hims dude talking about politics is because like the company has nothing to do with the political stuff he was talking about. So to me, it just felt narcissistic. And it was just like, dude, like you're not the guy who's going to change the world with your comments. You run a company and you have a business to operate. But CARP might actually change the world with his political comments and might make some money in the process based on how the business operates. RNT says everyone has a right to their own views. It's when they try to push it on others. That's a no. I agree. And CEOs like public, like I can't imagine Jensen or Sundar or Satya Nadella having a particular political view about something really tough. I just keep using abortion as an example because that's polarizing, but abortion and trying to impose that. It's different to generally talk about the state of politics versus a specific view. And, you know, when you get super specific, I think that can end up hurting the stock as well. Okay, didn't the Hims guy walk back his statement a little soon after? Yeah, that's true. Because the stock fell 30%. So he was like, hey, I think the board gave him a call and said, hey, dude, do you want to be an activist or do you want to make some money? And like, if you want to make some money, you got to readjust these statements. Ethereum right here at 3,500, Bitcoin at 69,525. And quite frankly, again, as I get older, the activism part of people's psychology or their mindset to me is just, it's flawed because the biggest way you can create any change in regards to what the activists want, what a lot of people who are protesting want, quite frankly, is by increasing economic mobility, right? Like when you employ people, they have an income, they can go, donate to causes that they care about. When you build a company that creates products and services, you increase top line GDP for whatever country you're in. That gives people opportunities. And then when you're done functioning in that company, you can take that money and go advocate and be purely political. But in the meantime, if the politics is a constraint on the ability to execute on a business sense, which creates the economic mobility to then achieve political goals, well, then it's just not helpful to anyone, shareholders, investors, customers, or consumers, when a CEO gets ultra political. That's my perspective on it, but just was curious how other people thought about that as well. D Visual Art says dick pills can't change the world. Well, that's true. There's definitely, honestly, we probably need more babies given we're having that population crisis. So maybe Hims is actually changing the world in a fundamental way. I saw some population stats the other day, dude. We are not making enough babies, like at all. We are not making enough babies. M Goat says, admit I bought a 185 pounder for my daughter this morning. Awesome. Wait, 185 pounds here times what? $21 you got it at? Let's do $21.50. That is $4,000. I love it. That's incredible. That's great. It's a great starter position for your daughter. And if she's like 10, 15 years old or something, in the next 5-10 years, I think that 4,000 will do good for her. We'll see. Palantir still has to execute. There's a lot of execution risk. Another reason why I'm more happy buying Palantir at these levels, guys, is because after meeting the employees and like really seeing the people that are using my money to build the company, you just realize these are the smartest people on the planet and they are choosing to work here. They're not going to, I keep saying this, but they're not going to stay if the stock is in the gutter, So, and that's a high level form of analysis that's not taking into account the numbers and the quantitative metrics and all that stuff, but just top line, the company cannot retain the smartest people on the planet if those people have stock options that are starting at, $23 and the stock is flat for the next 5 years at $21 to $23. Like they're going to leave at the end of the day. And so management's going to figure something out. Either they're going to grow faster, they're going to do whatever the hell they have to do. I assume they're going to grow faster. And that's going to inevitably help the stock. But I like that the market's mooning and Palantir is flat after raising guidance on earnings. That to me sounds like, okay, by the end of this year, when interest rates come down and their story gets better, I think they'll be okay. And so we'll see. Jerry says, I'm having a baby girl on Thursday doing my part. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Congrats. That's incredible. Congrats. I love it. I love it, Jerry. Congrats on a baby girl. That's so nice, dude. So having kids is an amazing thing. How many babies are you planning to make? I want 3 kids. I want 2 girls, 1 boy. That's my, I've told you guys, this is my fantasy. I want 2 girls, 1 boy. I would love to. I think the feminine, I think if my son grows up with women around him, there's a lot of compassion and empathy because women tend to be just like more empathetic and kind and stuff like that. That's how I am with my sister. I'd probably be like a worse human being if I didn't have my sister growing up with me. And so I would like to have 2 girls, 1 boy. I want the guy to be firm and strong, but I also want him to be a kind human being. And I think you get that with some of the feminine energy. I might sound like a simp right now. I don't care. And yeah, I would like to have 2 girls. I think that would be pretty cool. I want to have 3 kids though. I don't want to have 2 kids. Now, granted, it depends on the financial situation, how much I really want to have 3 kids, but I would like to have 3. 3 would be cool, dude. 3 would be so awesome. I grew up with 7 sisters. Wow. I love it. Stan says, I want 2 dogs, 1 cat. Dude, I want a golden retriever and a pug. I want 2 of those. That would be so nice to have those. I also want my kids to grow up with pets because I never grew up with pets. I actually had a cat and my mom returned it a week later because she got scared of it. So yeah, I had a cat for a week. But I would really like to have a couple dogs as we grow up. I don't want any cats though, dude. Cats are scary to me, but dogs are cuter. When is Anduril IPO? They're probably going to DPO. They're not going to IPO. And honestly, I think in that Bloomberg documentary, Palmer Luckey said that they're planning to do an IPO like soon. So maybe in a year or 2, we actually do get. I'm assuming it would be a DPO. I don't think it would be an IPO by Anduril. And that would be pretty cool. I'm not convinced on Anduril as a stock yet. I know a lot of people are like, when can I buy Anduril? They don't have a commercial side to their business yet. Now, I'm assuming they'll develop that, but you're buying a hardware business, so there's no software margins. I mean, there is software, but it's primarily hardware, and it's just government. So with Palantir, there was this big story on how their software that they developed for the government could expand to the rest of the world. With Anduril, I don't know if that story exists, you know? So I'm not like super excited to buy Anduril if it goes public, unless I think there's a path for them to be more software for commercial and more hardware for commercial. Otherwise, it's just a defense It's just like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon. And like, how big can that become? Maybe 100 billion, right? They're probably going to IPO at 30 billion or something, right? So like, how big does that actually become versus Palantir? You know, maybe 400 or 500 billion. It could actually get there as well. Okay. I think that's it for me. Thank you everybody for being here. We'll be live on Finance Junkies tonight. Also, Vlad's going to be live at 8 p.m. on some interview with Earn Your Leisure. If you haven't heard of him before, you can type it in YouTube and he'll be live tonight. So we'll see what he has to say. I'm curious, really curious, because I didn't get to interview him when the meme stocks went up. I interviewed him like a couple days before. I'm curious, Palantir 2155 after hours. I'm curious what he's going to say 2076 on Robinhood because of the meme stock rally and how excited he is, kind of what he's saying about the growth that they might be seeing on the platform, because those May numbers are going to be really important for the street as well next month for Robinhood. Does Vlad message you when he goes live? No, I saw this on a Twitter account. The Twitter account posted that he's going to be live today, and that's how I saw. I'll just put it in the chat right now so you guys can follow it as well. And then we'll have Finance Junkies at 9 p.m. and we'll break down a ton of stuff. There you go. Oh, I just sent my Twitter link. Wow, I just did the most narcissistic thing ever. I just sent my Twitter profile. That's insane, guys. I just look at this. Well, now that it's here, you might as well go to it and check it out. But this is the actual post. Why did Palo Alto drop so much? Guidance looks bad. Guidance looks bad. We'll talk more about them tomorrow. We'll see what the CEO has to say. But guidance not looking the best for Palo Alto Networks, and that's why it's down. Thank you for the birthday wishes. It means so much. My neck has stopped hurting over the past couple of days, so I feel young again. But you know, being 54 is a big responsibility, and hopefully my neck gets better as I continue to age. Sam says it's my birthday. Sam, is it actually your birthday? Don't lie. Is it actually your birthday? If it's your birthday, happy birthday to Sam. Sam, by the way, if you don't know, Sam's the one who started this whole happy birthday thing. Like, I think like a month ago, Sam was like, happy birthday, Amit, every single day in the chat. And then, dude, I get messages in my DMs like daily saying, hey, happy birthday. I'm just like, I don't know what to say to these people, dude. It's like, It's like, I'm just like, I'm like, all right, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. At this point, I just accept it's my birthday every day. Literally, I accept it every day because you just can't keep telling people it's not your birthday. So it's just like, all right, whatever. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Happy. I appreciate it so much for it being my birthday. 54. OMG. I thought you were in your 30s. Yep. I look good for 54. I look good. Peloton crashed. Hold on. Did Peloton crash? Peloton. Wow. Peloton. They're down 4% after hours. I think Apple should still buy Peloton. I don't know why they haven't done it. Netflix also went up today as well. Netflix right here. 640. Wow. Netflix. I didn't see this today. They're at 640. They're at all-time highs. Look at that. Netflix did what they had to do. 640. They fell to 550 after earnings. That just shows you how much this market is ready to buy if earnings are decent. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, guys. We'll see you on Finance Junkies at 9 p.m. and tomorrow for the market open 8:45. Also, I forgot, I am coming out with a video today about Palantir. Surprise, surprise. And I'm responding to this Guardian article. So this lady, Caroline Haskins, she wrote a pretty scathing article on Palantir. I asked her to come talk with me about the article. She decided not to. We both went to Palantir's conference. She's basically calling Palantir the most evil company in the world based on what she saw at this conference. I have a different perspective. So I will be coming out with a response to this article because I think this article honestly is full of shit. And I'm going to be responding to why I think this article is just not a good article. I invited her to talk. I even asked her on Twitter. I'll show you guys the responses in the video. I got some very interesting responses. I mean, to preview a little bit of the video, I said, hey, do you want to talk? And one of her friends responded, why would she talk to you? She's a journalist. I was like, motherfucker, are you fucking like the whole point of journalism? By the way, I would say I'm a journalist as well, a content creator, journalist. You could call it whatever the fuck you want to call it. We are putting out ideas into the world. Palo Alto down 9.24%. To not discuss or defend those ideas when someone challenges you on those ideas. If your job is about creating ideas, like the way these people think, the older I get, I'm like, dude, there is something happening where these people legitimately just want to shut down dissent. And then a bunch of her friends, there was this one girl who commented, oh, I know who I'm blocking. After I said in a friendly way, hey, Caroline, I have some different views from you. Would you love to come on my channel and discuss? And then some random girl underneath is like, oh, you're blocked. I'm like, you don't even know me. But she just blocked me because I asked this girl to come on the channel to debate with me. And I'm just like, what is going on this planet, dude? How are people thinking that it's not okay to discuss ideas after publishing very salacious claims in a way that's really not warranted by any evidence? It is absolutely fascinating. So I'll be replying with a video and, hopefully we can get some ideas out there and hopefully she responds if she sees the video as well. All right, that's it. Thank you everyone for being here. That video will be out in a couple hours and I'll see you guys on Finance Junkies tonight. Bye everyone. Have a good one. Good night.